Hello, everybody. My name is Theo, and on behalf of FP Markets, we thank you very much for watching. In this series, I'll be covering all the latest news with regards to the crypto market. But before we get right in, please like and subscribe to the video as it means a lot to us. Also, please feel free to visit our Traders Hub. This is home to a wide array of educational materials, such as articles and videos. However, you can also find some very useful tools, such as an economic calendar and a Forex calculator for managing risk. All this information is included and provided by Trading Central and is applicable for all our account holders. Diving into the price of Bitcoin this week, looking at the price currently is sitting at around $71,000, just over. We've had the touch up around 72,000, but since the news of the non-farm payroll, where we had some strength in the dollar and some positive news with the American markets, we've seen a little bit now of a drop. However, in comparison to the last week, which was here, we've seen a very significant rise when the price was at around $67,000, and here we are now sitting comfortably at well above $70,000. In comparison to the trend line that we had drawn out in the last video, the price was sitting, and we predicted either if we saw a respect of this trend line, we would see a bounce towards the 69,000 region, approaching 72,000, or if we were going to see a rejection of this trend line, we would see a potential drop down to 62. In the end, the former seems to have been respected. The trend line was respected. We saw a bounce. Bitcoin then hit a high of around 71,965-ish, something like that. So just below 72,000. And as we're going now, approaching the weekend, we look set to be able to try and retest our new all-time high levels once again at around $74,000. I wouldn't be surprised to see a drop of Bitcoin come back down and touch our trend line, which would coincide with around $70,000 region once more to gain a little bit more liquidity, a bit more of a jump before. However, we all know what could happen over the weekend. When it comes to the news itself, early start of the week on 5th of June, Bitcoin ETF saw a massive day, a record day with $887 million in inflows. This was mostly down to Fidelity itself. Fidelity Wise Origin Bitcoin Fund saw the largest inflow, which was at around $378 million, just under 379 million, while BlackRock's ETF came in second with 274.5 million-ish. This is once again another day where records were broken, where there's more and more and more institutional investing coming through. As we said in this article, Fidelity led the line. In the same day, another article was released where an executive from Fidelity was saying that most investors should try and have some sort of exposure to Bitcoin, some allocation, whether they understand the technology or not, whether they agree with the technology or the future or not. It's important to have some sort of allocation there. He says here, it's tough because a lot of professional investors are able to model out every asset class given the amount of data that's at our fingertips now. However, with digital assets, you don't have that luxury. And I think that's fine. That's why you have to just understand why you might want to own this, understand the potential of this technology, and then position accordingly. Which is, even though, of course, no one should ever be giving financial advice when it comes to these things, as we've seen many times, articles could not be exactly matching what's happening in real life. The idea of having some sort of exposure to an asset that is clearly showing incredible results, whether you agree with it or not, could be considered wise when it comes to managing risk. Because if one was to completely disagree with the fundamentals of Bitcoin or the fundamentals of owning cryptocurrency, they would have also at the same time lost out on such incredible returns. So even if it is a small percentage that you are exposing, this can potentially give you a great benefit, whether you agree with the technology or not, or whether you even understand the technology or not. So this is another article that came in earlier today as well, where Bitcoin bets hit peak of $337 billion as the ETF inflows set new records. Once again, reaffirming the case that new institutional investors are going to continue. The surge in open interest has coincided with record inflows into the spot Bitcoin ETFs as well. This is always going to be a very bullish scenario. And as we've mentioned in our previous videos, it's not going to be stopping anytime soon. The more exposure that other institutional investors haven't got yet, it's only a matter of time before they start deciding even a small percentage would be wise. When it comes to other news, GameStop, even though of course is the stock market, and there's been some incredible news that's been coming out of that recently. If I'm not mistaken, now Warren Kitty after the open today could see over $1 billion from GameStop, which is quite incredible. However, when it comes to the meme stocks, there is a cryptocurrency named GME, which is after GameStop. There is no affiliation, of course, when it comes officially. However, as it is a meme token, any kind of news that reflects in real life is also going to reflect then in the crypto world as well. So since the latest incredible news that came throughout GameStop, we've also seen an incredible run in the GME token as well, roaring approximately 80% higher, approximately something like this, which is again ridiculous. But this is why we try and discuss this aspect of the news as well, because even though it's important to discuss the institutional side of things and where we're going with banking and digital assets overall and the actual performance of Bitcoin and Ethereum and the ETFs that could be coming, it's also important to see that this is still an asset class that's very much in its infancy. There is very little to be discussed about managing risk when it comes to crypto. However, without risk, there is no reward, which is what the main fundamental thesis is behind going into such risky investments such as meme stocks. At the end of the day, meme stocks, meme coins, they are a risk, but at the same time, they have seen an incredible run, and people that have been involved have seen a big return on their investment. So can't knock them at the end of the day. In that sense, BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF attracted $780 million of inflows in 3 days, which is once again reaffirming what we've discussed before. BlackRock are going to continue this trend, and while BlackRock, Fidelity, and all the other institutional investors continue to pump money into the Bitcoin ETFs, then there is no reason why we couldn't see potential price increase for Bitcoin as well. As we discussed as well with Ethereum, this is here, as we discussed last week with Ethereum, with their ETFs that had been surprisingly almost greenlit by the SEC. Obviously, not everything is completely done, but a lot of the important paperwork that have been submitted has been approved already. ProShares seeks an SEC approval for a spot Ethereum ETF that's going to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange. The Ethereum custody is secured by Coinbase Custody Trust Company. The ProShares itself is filing this for the actual spot Ethereum ETF as well. Once again, this is just going to be another one that's going to be added onto the list. There's several ETFs now that could potentially be approved by the SEC. It's now simply a waiting game on when they're going to make a decision. The decision for this ETF is expected in approximately in late July 2024. So we'll see what happens until then. However, until then, we can see that the prices continue to rally. In the last week that we discussed, the price had been at around $3,600. We discussed if the price was continue to drop, we would be surprised to see 3,485, even possibly 3,333. However, if we were going to respect this support line and we were going to have a little bounce, there'll be no reason to see 3,900 again, with the potential to reach 4,000, 4,100. Since then, in this last week, we've been very much in this support resistance zone, hovering between 3,700 and 3,900-ish, so $200 each, give or take. And until we have some further news that's going to dictate whether the SEC is going to approve or is going to reject the Ethereum ETFs, this is, of course, going to also match very much with the price as well. So at the moment, it's still buy the rumor, sell the news. We shall see what happens with this one. In additional news, CoinGecko confirmed an email provider data breach. So there was over 23,000 phishing emails sent. So whoever is dealing with CoinGecko, bear in mind that there has been a breach there, and please stay safe, because it's a very, very scary place out there if you don't know what you're doing when it comes to the security of your tokens. Also, bear in mind as well on the last, FTX creditors. We discussed last week on the video how the exchange FTX was trying to pay back its investors and its creditors, and they had a specific plan in place through their bankruptcy. However, the reorganizational plan isn't exactly what their creditors had in mind, because even though we had discussed itself that FTX were willing to try and take out a large sum of money to try and pay back their creditors, to try and pay back their investors, there's a couple of things that they've left out. A group of FTX creditors, which was led by Sunil Kavuri, filed an objection to FTX's bankruptcy reorganization plan. They rejected it on several grounds, and they've also stated itself that it does not serve the best interests of their creditors. One of the main reasons for this is because if they were to actually have their money get back from FTX, it would be then subject to tax. and the tax system in the US, especially when it comes to something like this, would not be very, very pretty for the creditors that will be receiving funds back. They're not very, very happy with FTX's plan at the moment, so we'll see more as that develops. As it stands right now, the news for crypto space is going to continue to be positive until we see it different. So far with Ethereum, as we've just discussed, the price is staying in between the support and resistance zone of 3,700 to 3,900. If we see a break below the 3,700, I wouldn't be surprised to see 3,485. If we see a top of 3,900 and we see a breakage of this resistance, I wouldn't be surprised to see us approach the 4,100 mark once again. As it applies with Bitcoin as well, as we discussed, it's respecting the trend line so far. I wouldn't be surprised to see a little drop back down to 69, 70,000 just so we can gain some more liquidity to head up higher. However, if we were to enter the weekend and just continue to soar from here and approach the $73,000 to $74,000, we'll be approaching that previous all-time high with plans to try and reach that and create new all-time highs. So until then, thank you once again very much for watching this video. If you have any further questions, please feel free to contact me. You can also feel free to comment below on the video as well. I'll be happy to answer any questions that anybody has. We're available 24/7 as well if you visit www.fpmarkets.com. And until the next video, I wish you all a great weekend and I wish you all the best with your trading. Goodbye.